up, Metal Summoners? We are super stoked to be back with you, rocking out. Thank you so much for all the love, the constant support of the show, and allowing us to have such amazing conversations with guests like our guest tonight. We are back here with you guys. Welcome back to your Island of Misfit Toys with myself and with Angel, and we really, really appreciate you guys, like I said, showing the support, getting out there, supporting live music, getting merch, buying records, and all that good stuff. Oh, excuse me. Before I bring in our guest of the hour or hours, but the guest of course, the interview, Angel and I do want to take a quick moment. A lot of you probably have seen the posts making it around on social media lately of our recent passing in the rock and metal community of Jack Russell from Jack Russell's Great White. Of course, an amazing hit to the industry, a lot of great music, amazing records that he did, not only, of course, when he was with Great White, but then continuing on with Jack Russell's Great White. So on behalf of our show, on behalf of course, Psycho Steve, our co-host, myself and Angel, did want to express our condolences and our love and gratitude to Jack's career, but to Jack Russell's family, to his band members, and to all of his many fans. So Jack, we love you. You know, we were never able to make it an interview on this show, but I did have the pleasure of interviewing Jack in the past individually with my solo situation. But Jack, we love you. Thank you so much for all the music, all the records on behalf of the Metal Summit, myself, Angel, and Psycho Steve. And thank you all, Metal Summoners. Thank you so much, friends, fans, for allowing us that moment. But let's turn this frown upside down. We have great conversations, awesome things to talk about. We have got Patriarchs in Black in-house. We've got Hades. We've got nonfiction. We have so much fun stuff to talk about. But more importantly, Dan Lorenzo is with us right now. Dan, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate time this evening with you. And welcome to the Metal Summit.
Thank you for having me. And I always appreciate people remembering my past as well as the present.
Absolutely, 100%. But of course, let's jump right into that present. Let's talk about the excitement around Patriarchs in Black. Congratulations are, of course, in order, and it's got to be so excited to get to talk about this band and talk about this music.
Yeah, we just released our third album on vinyl and CD and digital, Patriarchs in Black Visioning. And, Johnny Kelly plays all the drums, I play all the guitars, and then we use different singers for every single song and different bass players. So it's a really fun project. I still live in New Jersey, and Johnny's all the way in Texas. So we haven't done any shows yet, but we're having a lot of fun. We've released 3 albums in 3 years, and the new one is on Metalville. And just came out a few weeks ago, and things are going well as far as the reviews and the radio airplay.
That's awesome, man. That's so super cool. One of the things I always find very, very interesting, and there are other bands, other musicians and artists that have done something very similar to this, but I always find it very interesting, with with a band that has a particular design to them and a certain, of course, members that are constant, that do love to go above and beyond when it comes to the guest contributors of their record, and having so many multiple singers and different personalities and different styles forming this Patriarchs in Black album had to be very interesting, but also probably quite an undertaking.
Yeah, sometimes I almost forget I have to write down notes like who I sent what song to and did any bass player get this song yet? And there's always these temporary titles I come up with. And then you give it to the singer, and then usually they want to write their own lyrics and melody and come up with their own title. So when we go finalize the record, the producer, J-Rob, will always say, all right, so the song Visioning, what was that originally called? And I have to give him it's a lot of stuff to remember because you're dealing with literally over 20 people an album.
Yes. Absolutely, for sure. And with, of course, you and Johnny being those constant members for Patriarchs in Black, like I said, how did your relationship with Johnny come about?
From what I remember, I think Johnny and I met on MySpace, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
I think that's how we met. I could be wrong. I mean, I know Hades and Nonfiction played with Typonegative a bunch of times, but I feel like that might have either been before Johnny was in the band or we never spoke back then. And then I believe we met on MySpace, and then I remember I got his email, and I wrote for a magazine called Steppin' Out Magazine. I wrote for them, and I sold advertising for them for 20 years, a little over 20 years. And there'd be a question of the week, and I just asked different celebrity friends, questions, and I'd always include Johnny. And I did 4 records with Vessel of Light. and 2 albums with Cassius King. And right around that time, COVID hit, and the singer from Vessel of Light moved from Cleveland to Austin. And I kept writing songs. And I said to Bobby Blitz, I said, I'm thinking of reaching out to Johnny Kelly to give him some of my songs. And Blitz is like, oh my God, he'd be perfect for you. So as far as I know, that we met on MySpace, long story short.
Oh, very, very cool. Because, like yourself, Johnny is one of those guys who definitely stays active. Multiple projects, many projects. I can only imagine, just having another band for him is very similar to yourself, where you've got this catalog of bands that you've worked with and stuff that you're doing with all of these albums. So even something like that is always incredibly interesting to me, and incredibly honorable as well for artists like yourself, that it's like, I am able to rock my calendar in a way that will allow me to be in these multiple projects, because sometimes it's difficult for a musician to just stay consistent with one.
Yeah, so right now I'm only doing Patriarchs in Black, but I'm writing with DMC and I'm writing with Blitz, starting to write again with him. But right now I'm just concentrating on Patriarchs in Black. Like I already wrote and recorded 6 songs for the next record, believe it or not, even though the 3rd album just came out recently.
Oh man, we love fresh tunes, don't we, Angel? I mean, we love new music and stuff to talk about. And on that note, my friend, let's kick it over to you for a little bit and have you take it away.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Definitely really appreciate it. Just want to talk about what's the method to your madness when it comes to songwriting.
When it comes to what?
What's the method to your madness when it comes to your songwriting?
Generally, I would say the 90% of the time I'll just be playing guitar, and then I stumble upon something I like. And the other 10% is the more exciting part, the more fun and exhilarating part, where I will, like a few months ago, I told you off the camera, my wife and I were in Edison after an Overkill show at the Starland Ballroom. And just as I was leaving the hotel, I heard music in my head. So as we're checking out, I hum it into my phone, and then I get home and I figure out how to play it on the guitar, and then I write parts around it. And now it's a full song that I actually gave to Blitz for the. Actually, no, it's not for Blitz. I think it's for Patriarchs in Black. But that's to me really exciting when I come up with a song in my head. Some of my favorite songs have started that way, like the song My Veneration from the previous album. I hear something in my head. And I was telling the other guys that if you listen to Visioning, it starts off with the viola. And I heard that melody line in my head, and I picked up my guitar and I started playing it on the guitar. And I'm like, wow, that doesn't sound so good. That's like, why would I think that's a good thing? And then I realized, okay, it sounds weak on the guitar, but it sounds beautiful. It's in my head. It's probably a violin. So I sent it to a violin player, and he came into the studio and just, I hummed it to him and he played it. And then, now it leads off the record. So that method to my madness, that's one of my most fun things, when I hear things in my head and then it comes to fruition.
Wow. I love these stories about songwriting. That's why I'm just like, wow, that's amazing that hearing something in your head and then seeing it become a song.
Yeah.
Because Jay and I, we're music fans. That's what we live for, is the music. So it's super awesome that we ask questions about how the music, all of that comes together. Do you ever write anything around a song title? Does a song title ever come to you and you just think, wow, that's a really cool song title, and just write that around?
Angel, you're breaking up a little I don't know if you can hear everything, Jay.
Yeah, you got a little choppy, Angel. So hit him with the question again. Let's just slow it down just a touch for you, buddy.
Okay.
Has it ever happened where you come up with a song title first?
I would say not really. Like, I wanted to call the album Visioning, and I gave it to Mark Sunshine. I said, if you want, write a song called Visioning. I gave him the music. So I would say yes and no. That I don't ever come up with a song title first and then write a song around it, because 90% of the time on these albums, I'm letting the singers write the lyrics and the melody lines, you know? So, but I will, that being said, I will say that when I wrote the song from the first album, Sing for the Devil, I wrote the music, and then I was in my car and I started singing Sing for the Devil. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't want to write a pro-devil song. You know, I'm not a devil worshiper or anything. And I realized, okay, what is that? Why am I singing that in my head? Where is this going? And then I put Sing for the Devil. I put a question mark in front of it. And it basically was like the old story about the guy going to the crossroads and he has the chance to sell his soul for eternal fame and fortune. But this guy, when he gets that offer, he tells the devil no, and then he just sings for himself. So instead of singing for the devil, he's singing for himself in front of much smaller crowds, which is kind of like the story of my life, you know?
As far as live shows, if there's anything that's coming up or as doing live shows?
Not right now, because like I said, I live in Jersey, Johnny lives in Texas, and every weekend he's with Quiet Riot. And if we're going to do shows, I wouldn't want to do it with like one singer or two. I would want to have like a pretty big production. So we've talked about trying to work something out. I mean, Mark Sunshine and Carla Gell, they are like dying to do a show. We're just trying to figure out how we could do it with more than one or two singers, because it's not like anybody's giving us offers for like enough money to pay all of our expenses. And, you know, like I said, with Johnny being in Quiet Riot, that's what he does for a living, is he plays drums. So I can't expect him to fly to New Jersey or wherever to play a couple shows for free. You know, it's not fair to him, but it's definitely something we've talked about and we'd love to do.
Jay, let me kick it right back up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. When it comes to Patriarchs in Black and having 3 albums out now, when you were putting together this project and putting together music for it, what was your vision at the time for it? Were you originally looking for it to maybe be a full, straight up like band situation? Or were you always interested in taking advantage of your various peers and contacts to have, you know, such a substantial amount of guest musicians from record to record to record?
I would say there was no preconceived notion when I first reached out to Johnny. And what we did is we sent the first song I wrote with Johnny and I played on, sent it to Carla Gell from Corrosion of Conformity Blind. And after a couple weeks, Carl didn't send anything back, which shouldn't shock me. You know, it's like not everybody works like lightning fast. And I feel like it was maybe a Wednesday night. I was thinking to myself, man, it'd be interesting to have a couple different singers on this record, but I didn't say anything to Johnny. And then the very next day, Johnny said to me, he's like, you know, why don't we use different singers and different bass players on every song? And I'm like, it's so weird, man. I was literally thinking that last night, the same thing. So then we got the first song back from, I started sending other songs to different singers, and we got the first song back from Carl, and it became Demon of Regret. And it was so good. And we're like, oh, man, we made a mistake. We should have just had Carl sing every song. It's so good, you know. But then we started getting the other singers sent us their songs back. And we were really happy that we made the choice we did. And now it's like, I don't know, man. To me, it's as fun or more fun than any project I've ever done, because, you know, my whole life I'm always in a band where, you know, every band hears this, where you got a segment of the world, whether it's Iron Maiden or whatever band. You're like, yeah, I like the music, but I don't like the singer. You know, it's like, so Patriarchs in Black, there's a different singer on every song. If you don't love the vocalist for one song, it's not going to make you, you know, not like the whole album, you know?
Absolutely, 100%. And what was, where did the name come from? Where did you get the idea for Patriarchs in Black?
You know, it's funny, man. I just needed a name for the project, and I don't remember. It might have been the Bible, the word patriarchs. And, you know, every time you pick a band name, if you pick a one thing, like, you know, to say if it was going to be Angel or Jay, there's already a million bands with that name. And, you know, you have to find something like I always wanted to like Google, like say with Vessel of Light, we Google the band Vessel. We were going to call it Vessel. And I said, no, there's another band with that name. So if you pick Patriarchs, I'm sure there's another band with the word Patriarchs in their name. So it has to be something different. And I guess the In Black is a nod to Black Sabbath, probably, you know, or it just sounds cool.
Absolutely, for sure. And one of the things I thought was kind of interesting, going back to a question you were answering with Angel's segment, was when you were talking about, like, like the word like devil and stuff like that in music. Where it is very interesting when you were talking about like writing songs or writing music that is either titled with devil or something like that, because you've got songs like Shout at the Devil with Motley Crue that people kind of initially think of like horns up and Satan and devil type stuff, especially with them doing their kind of Mad Max look back then. But then you also have bands like Stryper that do like To Hell with the Devil, and they're completely transparent with their beliefs. But it's that same kind of thing where it's like the different messages that get sent. So I just found that to be a really interesting when you were talking about that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a devil guy, and the singer for Vessel of Light is an avowed Satanist. And I'm sorry, yeah, the singer for Vessel of Light. He's in a band called Ancient Wisdom, who were the first band to ever tour as the openers for Ghost in America. Oh. And when he and I hooked up, I told him, like, you can't, don't sing pro-devil lyrics, so I'm not down with that, And I'm Catholic and I go to church, and I don't want to sing pro-devil lyrics. It's just not my thing,
For sure. No, totally understandable. That's just the thing I just found, like, interesting about that segment, and you continuing it with me, which I appreciate, because I've always just found that particularly interesting, because of course, and understandably so, rock and metal music has a certain stigma about it and stuff like that. But that's one of the things I always love about lyrics, and I just love about songs in general, is they allow for those messages that a listener, can be wrong about, because of course, so many songs are left up to interpretation, and they connect with people on different levels for different reasons. And I always find it like interesting with that kind of stuff too, because you might connect with a song and then find out later that it's completely different. The message is just kind of different than what might have been portrayed across, especially in a band, even in Patriarchs of Black, where you've got some heavy material.
Yeah, and then now you just reminded me, since you mentioned Hades before we started, is when I first picked Hades, there was no negative connotation, and my mom flipped out about the word Hades, and everybody thought it meant hell. But when you really look into it, it was just the place of the dead. Before there was heaven and hell, there was Hades. It was just a place, in Greek mythology where people went when they died. So, and then honestly, I picked the name Hades because I learned it was like the Lord of the Underworld in Greek mythology class in 9th grade. And I thought the underworld meant the mafia or something, So it's like, all these things can have different meanings to different people, but sometimes you have to look below the surface, right?
For sure, absolutely. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have like this like mobster type stuff, and it's like, oh no, not quite.
Yeah.
No, that's super awesome. But let's continue on that for a moment, Dan, if you don't mind, because again, I liked Hades and stuff like that. Like, what's some of the backstory, on Hades with you forming that group back in the day?
Well, I picked the name Hades before I even started playing guitar, which is pretty crazy. I started playing guitar in March of 1978, and I guess I had Greek mythology in January of 1978. And so, yeah, I was going to be Dan from Hades for my whole life. That was the plan. It was, Hades would be my band forever. And I'm envious of my friends' bands like Overkill or Doggy Dog, who they have different lineups, but they keep the same name. My music's changed, though, from the first Hades album to where I'm at now. So, I mean, Hades was my baby. But after we broke up in 1989, honestly, when I started Nonfiction, that was really my baby. And that's, to me, my sound hasn't changed that much since 1990 in Nonfiction. But, Hades was fun. It was probably the best-selling album I was ever on was Hades Resisting Success. And we toured Europe in 89. We broke up, but then we did some reunion shows and records from 1999 to 2001. We were on Metal Blade, and we played the Wacken Festival. And then in 2010 was the last real show. We played the Bang Your Head Festival. I think we played Dingbats a year after that. But that was it. It was 2011 was the end of Hades.
Oh, gotcha. When you did those reunion shows, I wasn't able to wasn't familiar with when you played Wacken and then played the Dingbat show. I knew that you guys, I'd heard you were doing these reunion shows. I just hadn't seen the full follow-up for it. Was the original band like back together for those reunion shows?
Well, Pretty much, except for the drummer. Jimmy Shulman, my best friend and my bass player, he joined us for the third and the final Hades album called Damnation, which was on Metal Blade. And the first album, Hades Save Yourself, we had Scott LePage and Ed Furman. Scott LePage actually played guitar on Resisting Success, but he played bass on Save Yourself. And then the only guy that was brand new was Dave Lisinski, and then Ron Lipnicki was on the last Hades album. And then Ron went into Overkill. We met Blitz at my house at a party I had, and then Ron came back after he was out when Ron left Overkill. He was with me again in Vessel of Light and Cash is King, as was Jimmy Shulman.
Oh, very cool. And I have to ask, because I'm sure it's a territorial thing, and I think it's awesome because I'm an Overkill guy myself, but you definitely appear to have a lot of history and just ties with the Overkill band, which I just think is awesome. Is that just Jersey represent kind of stuff from your history and playing the scene?
Yes and no. Hades played with Overkill in 1982, and we did not hit it off. But then we toured Europe. Nonfiction opened up for Overkill in America and in Europe in 1993. And then do you know about the record, The Cursed Room Full of Sinners?
I know the record. I know of the record.
So that was me and Blitz. Blitz was a big fan of my first solo record, and he actually did a song with me on my second solo record called Too Fast for Hate. And, we were always friendly. After the European tour, we became really friendly. And we did that record in 2007 together. So, there's people have asked me, they want to probably re-release the record because it's not available anywhere, the Cursed album. And I asked Blitz to sing for Patriarchs in Black, but he tells me he doesn't want to be one of many to be, do a whole record together. So we're talking about it now. I've written some songs for him, and maybe next year something will come out with Blitz and I.
That would be super awesome. I would love to hear that record in full, get a physical copy if you release them. Like, that would be super duper awesome. I think that's so killer. And final part on this slight segment of the past before I kick it back up to Angel and any questions the Metal Summoners might have is when you transition from Hades to nonfiction, where, of course, you're completely passionate about Hades and that being like your band and the band you want to continue on. And then, of course, sometimes that doesn't happen. And then you transition into this new project, new passions and new excitement. How was that bridge for you? Because you definitely got very into nonfiction, like you had said. But how was that still bridge between bands for you?
Yes, so with Hades, we have, from the first Hades album, we have a song called Night Stalker. And if you listen to the beginning of it, I'm tuned down really far, and Scott and Jimmy aren't. Actually, no, Jimmy, I forced him to tune down his low E string for the beginning of the song. But those guys thought their guitars would break in half if they tuned as low as I did for some reason. So I always wanted to do the tune down stuff. I was into it like in 1986. But the other guys really didn't feel comfortable tuning down their guitars until the early 90s. So as soon as Hades broke up, I'm like, they just tuned everything down. And, to me, it was like, I remember people at first were very confused by nonfiction because they're like, it used to be, I remember this one guy saying to me, Hades was so heavy and nonfiction is so slow. I'm like, yeah, it's slow and heavy. And then like people were really confused by it in 1989, 1990. And then by 1991, locally, we were pretty popular for a couple of years. And we played Studio One in New Jersey. And like just a couple of years later, like all the opening bands would be tuned down. So it was funny to see, but it was definitely like, remember, people were like not getting it at first. They were super confused that, it was slow and heavy as opposed to thrash.
Oh, gotcha. And I always love talking to artists about that time of the year, that time in music and, the 90s and stuff. So with Angel and I also growing up being big, just like 80s metal people and glam people with our love of like Kiss and stuff like that. Of course, the topic comes up regularly with various artists that were glam type people about grunge coming in. And with you transitioning from, Hades into nonfiction where it's tuned down, a little bit slower, but still heavy, where it could have a little bit of that emotion sludge to it. How did you see the transition of music and the arc, the musical arc and landscape, like climate landscape? That's what I was looking for. As that changed, being that you were still part of the thrash scene and it was more glam that got affected. But of course, times change. Decades bring different opportunities, different options. How did you see the change in the landscape?
When you're doing it, I don't think you notice it that much until the end. Like I remember in 1994, or even the end of '93, like nonfiction was going like this, and then the end of '93, it just seemed to be like we played a show in New Jersey and it wasn't packed. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, well, maybe it's because the summer. Like it's just, I don't know, man. It just like it felt like I didn't realize anything was going on differently, but I guess in hindsight, we were not the only tuned down band anymore. There was a lot of other bands that were becoming really popular and were tuning down, and for whatever reason, we didn't maintain that arc that we were on for a couple of years, and it just went in the opposite direction. But a lot of times when you're doing it, you're not analyzing it, particularly back then. There's no internet, there's no YouTube, so you don't know what's going on. Like, why is my band? Why does it feel like it's getting less popular? It's like very confusing, and even now, I don't know really what happened as to what happened with nonfiction as far as why we started trending downward. But everything ended up great. I'm happily married for 27 years, and I thought I was going to never release music again a couple times in my life, and each time I found that I was actually wrong.
That's awesome, man. That's so killer. We're super stoked to hear stuff like
Thanks.
that. With you getting into music, of course, in the 70s, like you said, was guitar your first instrument?
Yeah. Only guitar. I wanted to be like Ace Frehley from Kiss meets Joe Perry from Aerosmith. That was my plan, was to be like those guys.
Oh, nice. What's your I can't help but ask now, just because of the timing and with those two specific names, with the Kiss calling it a career and Aerosmith's recent announcement of retirement due to Stevens, just his vocal situation. How do you look at two of those bands that had influences on you picking up a guitar? How does it feel for you personally having them decide to call it curtains?
I mean, I'm okay with it. I went to the Kiss final reunion, the final tour, 10 years ago or 12, 15, whatever it was.
Right.
So, and then Aerosmith, I have such a weird relationship with both Kiss and Aerosmith. Like the first 7 or 8 Kiss albums I love. And then there was a lot of horrible stuff. But then they came out with, like War Machine and I Love It Loud. And I kind of got back into them. And then Aerosmith, like my wife has a friend who she used to work with, and she knows of Aerosmith as like, Love in an Elevator, those kinds of, and that's not my Aerosmith. So like when you say Aerosmith's going to retire, like my Aerosmith kind of stopped playing 25 years ago, I mean,
Gotcha.
To take nothing away from those first 6 or 7 albums, they were, I mean, I can't even believe how much I love them, so much, but I wasn't into too much of the newer stuff of either band.
Absolutely, for sure. And at that same time, because now you just got a mini gear turning for me when it comes to Aerosmith, I always find it, I love opinions on collaborations, especially with you and Patriarchs in Black, doing so many collaborations with various peers. What did you think of when Aerosmith did the Run DMC collab?
I was heartbroken because about a year and a half prior to that, I was in New York City with Hades, and Run DMC walked into the recording studio, and Jam Master Jay got behind the drum kit, and I said, I was enamored with them because my African-American friends in Macy's, where I was unloading trucks, were really into Run DMC, and I was like, why don't we do a song together? And Jam Master Jay or Run, like literally beeline for the door and said, you can't mix rap with metal, you can't mix rap with metal.
Oh,
and I'm man, I'm so stupid. Why did I say that? It's like, so when that Aerosmith thing, I'm like, that is so funny. Like a lot of people think I was a day late and $1 short, but I mean, there were some things that I wanted to do that people didn't say, yeah, good idea. Let's tune down our guitars in 1986. Like, so I don't know, man. It's just, I feel a little ambiguous about that.
No, I definitely understand you on that. I'll be honest, like Angel, I don't know about you, bro, but I was really unprepared for that kind of an answer, to be honest. It was just like I was like, I was like, cool, I'm prepared for his answer of hey, I think it's cool, it's nice to see new things, or hey, I wasn't really feeling it because it was a mix of these genres. I was so unprepared that you were actually that close to the project.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And just for what it's worth, what did you think of Public Enemy and Anthrax?
I love Public Enemy. I'm not an Anthrax guy, honestly. I love the song AIR.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I didn't like Scott Ian. Scott Ian, I remember him singing into my microphone in Metal Joe's basement, where I just watched a video today of James Hetfield talking about some of the songs he wrote at Metal Joe's house. But I remember we did Denim and Leather by Saxon, and this is like 1982. And I saw this some little kid, not little, I mean, a shorter guy singing Denim and Leather into my microphone. I'm like, dude, what are you doing singing into my mic? So I always thought I wouldn't like Scott Ian. Something about him bummed me out. And then I read his book. I'm like, God, me and that guy have so much in common. So weird. Like this, he was in Queens, I was in Jersey. We have a lot of the same influences, but I'm not going to lie and say I'm a fan of Anthrax. Like I don't listen to them, but I know my buddy Jimmy Shulman was one of their first roadies, and local band that we were never super friendly with, except Jimmy was friendly with them.
Sure.
And they came to see us at Streets, and I'm sure Angel remembers New Rochelle, New York. They came to see us play a couple times.
Oh, that's awesome, man, for sure. No, definitely, and totally understandable, 100%, man. Angel, let's kick it back up to you for a bit, my friend.
I'm with you, Dan, about that collaboration with Aerosmith Run DMC. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, Walk This Way, the original version. Now I'm hearing this. Like, you murdered one of my favorite songs.
Yeah,
But
well, they made a lot of money with it, right?
yeah, I mean they had done with Mirrors, which didn't do too well, so they needed it, I guess, something to jumpstart their careers again.
Yeah, well, it turned a lot of people onto Aerosmith and Run DMC, so I guess it worked out for them,
Yeah, it was the only time in my household that my brothers were digging the song because they liked Run DMC, and I was like this, all upset because I love Aerosmith, but I love the original version.
Yeah.
So that was just pretty crazy in the household. They were like, "Yeah, we love Aerosmith," and I'm like, "You don't even know another Aerosmith song."
Yeah, well, they had Sweet Emotion was, that was a pretty much a minor hit. But yeah, it was obviously those guys. I remember one time I interviewed Joey Kramer, the Aerosmith drummer, and this is like going back many, many years. And I said, what would it sound like if you guys wrote another Aerosmith record with no outside help? And he's like, oh, you're going to find out on the next record. And it never happened because Aerosmith became super popular again, second time in their life. And, I guess when the money's rolling in, you want to just keep doing things that are commercial and making the money so you can make those big house payments. But yeah, I'm only a fan of the early Aerosmith albums like you.
Yeah, and I mean, the producer they had, Jack Douglas, I mean, was just freaking amazing. I mean,
yeah,
you cannot really put a thing on the work that he did. When it comes to like promoting a record now, because again, I mean, it's weird times because there's no music business, and you have this thing with TikTok that people go on to promote. So my question to you is: does it feel different promoting a record now as opposed to back then with all this other
definitely
technology and stuff?
Yeah, it's like living on another planet. It's like moving to another planet, because it's so all the things that you did that worked in the 80s and the 90s aren't going to really work now, and people's attention spans are so short. I mean, I've never been on TikTok. I mean, I guess maybe I've been on it if my old drummer sends me something on TikTok, I can sometimes watch the videos for 15 seconds. But yeah, I'm not a TikTok guy. I do utilize Instagram because, like I said, I I work for a company called Painful Pleasures, and we sell tattoo supplies. And that's really like the best way to reach tattoo artists. But it's confusing for old men like me to try and figure out what you got to do to get popular in this new world, you know?
I mean, Jay is the TikTok guy because I'm too old to understand TikTok. I thought it was a game, like you play TikTok, X's and O's. So my nephew was like, no, it's like, what is it? I mean, me arguing with a 6-year-old about TikTok.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Well, here's the thing. The funny story on that is, like, to be honest, because Angel and I aren't far off from the same age, is like,
Right.
I really wasn't into TikTok. I thought it was stupid. I was like, it's just another thing. I do like Instagram, and Facebook has its value, but like, I really wasn't into it. And the funny thing is, my friend used to kind of the same thing. He used to send me videos, my friend Sam. And when I would try to watch these videos that were usually about like Halloween or horror or whatever, I would click on it and it would just go to a login page. Like, yeah, log into your TikTok and I'd be like, no, I don't want to. I don't want one. Why? I just want to see the damn video.
Yeah.
So eventually I just kind of caved because Sam was sending me all these videos and then asking me about them. And I'm like, I got tired of lying and just being like, oh yeah, it was cool. I was like, oh, fine, whatever. It's free. So, okay. So I set up an account literally just for that simple reason. And then I remember realizing and remembering that a former producer of our show had actually started us a Metal Summit TikTok page.
Oh,
and
okay.
I found it and I was able to link the two accounts.
Oh,
so
nice.
I was like, okay, well, I guess this is a thing now. So I really simply just use it for the purposes of this show. I'll do some kooky videos periodically because my house kind of looks like a gift shop. So I've got like so much horror and kookiness around. So sometimes I'll do little videos about, hey, let's talk about Ouija boards. Here's 8,000 Ouija board stuff I have. Or let's talk about the Addams Family. Here's a ton of Addams Family things. But most of the time I just use it to benefit the show, where I refuse to do videos for more than a minute. And it's me just being like, and like I did one tonight where I was just like, hey, Metal Summoners, thank you so much for always supporting the show. We love you. Let's talk about what we got going on tonight. Coming up tonight, we've got Patriarchs in Black, Dan Lorenzo, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And then just click publish, and I turn off and I set down my phone, just like that. And sometimes you get some pleasant surprises where you get like a chunk of followers. And my videos are really simple. They're literally not sexy. You see these people who are editing machines and like that splice in videos and photos, and I'm just like, I am not that guy. This is a picture of me in front of a bookshelf with my sunglasses on because it's too bright in that room, and talking about Dan being on the show tonight. Like, and that's all you're gonna get from me. I don't know how to intersplice the ness. But
Right.
It does have its benefits, because I will say every now and then I am able to stumble across like some fun, interesting videos that is kind of good to know, where it'll be like, hey, check out this gothic coffee shop in Chicago. And I'll be like, oh, well, I don't have any plans to go to Chicago, but that's good to know that should I end up there for a show or for whatever reason, that there's something that's up my alley, both drink wise and aesthetically pleasing, to go and check out. Okay, I'm cool with that. So there are some videos that pop up that I was like, okay, there's some cool things about this app. But like a lot of various socials, I was like, oh my God, there's so much rubbish too, where I'm just like, go away, bye, I'm done for the night.
Right.
Right back to you, Angel.
I'm just, like I said, it's like, it's like you feel like you're on a different planet with this whole thing of how do you promote a record using TikTok. Or I've heard stories about songs that became radio hits because of somebody singing a 30-second thing on TikTok. So to me, I'm like in a foreign land, it feels like, because I don't know what the hell it is.
Well, Jay, now that you're on TikTok, maybe you better sing a Patriarchs in Black song. So maybe your listeners,
There you go.
I'll try. I mean, you've got you've got some stellar vocals on the records and stuff, dude, where I'm like, I would love to try. I mean, I'm not a vocal guy, I'm a bass guy myself, but like I can do a little bit of like backing vocals when it comes to stuff. Like I was using your song "Welcome to Hell Again" when I promoted you guys on IG, and I was just kind of like, man, that's a heavy song.
Yeah.
Like I would never be able to do that. I do not have that tone.
Yeah, so that's DMC from Run DMC and a guy named Kelly Abe from a band called Resection that is definitely worth investigating. So
okay.
Everybody knows DMC and he's on that song, but Kelly Abe from Resection, in fact, he reposted the video you put on Instagram. So yeah, you want to definitely check him out.
Sweet, totally, absolutely, man.
Cool.
Yeah, totally. Let me kick it back with you, Angel.
No, I was going to kick it right back up to you.
Oh, no problem, man. Absolutely. So we were talking about, Dan, we were talking about right now there's no current like touring plans for Patriarchs in Black, especially because of the show that you guys want to put out with everything that you've got going with multiple vocalists and things like that. When should Johnny get some time and you guys are able to sync something up? What ideally would you be looking to do for a show? Because when it comes, like, just kind of theoretically, because obviously with what you guys do with a full record and that much talent and that many singers, I could understand that would be incredibly tricky, possibly not even feasible outside of something I feel like a Trans-Siberian Orchestra show, which of course is known for having so many players. But what would ideally you like to do if the opportunity presented itself where, hey, the schedules open up and, hey, Dan, 3 months from now, we're able to set you guys up with a tour? What would where's your mind at for what you would like to put together along with, singers and talent?
Well, I mean, so that we're on a label called Metalville, which is a German label, and they have some good connections for the European festival. So I don't picture a tour. I picture it being a festival show.
Okay.
And it would be like at least Carla Gale and Mark Sunshine for sure on vocals because they're the ones who want to do it the most. And then it would just be a matter of picking one or two more singers to come with us. I know DMC, he really wants to do whatever he can with Patriarchs in Black because he sang on the track Veneration from our last album. And like I said, he and I are writing together now, and he's totally into it. But it would at least, I would want to bring that guy, Kelly Abe, I mentioned, because nobody else could do that kind of like hardcore singing that I know except for Kelly. And then we could probably just be one bass player and just myself on guitar and at least have 3 different singers with us.
Oh, nice. That's really, really cool. Would you try to possibly kind of like section it a little bit where it's like, hey, we're going to do this chunk of like, this, Kelly's feature.
Yeah, that would probably make sense, but it might be even more fun if we didn't do the sections. If you had one guy, just say Carla Gale sing a song, then Mark Sunshine, then Kelly, then back to Sunshine, back. I don't know. We'd have to check it out when the time comes. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I'd love to take it back momentarily to when you were mentioning playing Wacken, because obviously that's such an amazing festival, completely legendary, but also such a huge event with so much talent. When you play festivals and do stuff like that, especially something like Wacken, where like you guys, it's just name after name after name. Do you get excited about that kind of situation? Do you watch other bands at festivals like that? Or do you find yourself, if you're not on stage, that you like to relax?
I think when we went to Bang Your Head, I remember being more relaxed and more like when we got there the night before and we watched the bands. But the day that we play, I'm kind of focused, until, we always would play pretty early in the afternoon because there's so many bands bigger than us. So until I'm done playing, then I can relax and check out the other bands. But until that moment, I'm kind of like just keying up to play the show. But I do remember having a great time at Bang Your Head the night before we played because we got to Germany, I guess, a day early. So we were able to see the opening night of the festival. And I remember, Hammerfall played. And I'm not a big Hammerfall guy, but it was just a cool vibe being there, the night before you play and just having the anticipation and seeing how big the crowds are. And, in Europe, the crowds get there early and they stay late. They don't just come for the headliner. So It's so they're run really well, and everything's like to the minute, like literally to the minute. There's no band like, Guns N' Roses taking 45 minutes to, nobody's late. You're just on time or you're not playing,
For sure. Do you since you were saying that, like, of course, leading up to your set, you're in your place, you're in your zone. Are you, just kind of coming from a journalist standpoint, are you an interviews day of show kind of guy, or are you the kind of guy that's like, what, I can't, it's a different mental spot for me, day of shows, like maybe after the set is a possibility, but do you do interviews like at the venues with?
I have, yeah. They're usually not super long ones. Yeah, definitely before or after. Not during, but before or after.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's because I'm not a singer, so it doesn't matter if my voice goes from talking, like I can hear it now. Yeah, I can do it before or after. It doesn't matter.
Oh, that's cool. No, totally. It's just kind of hit me suddenly. I was
Yeah.
like, it's kind of a curiosity question I'd like to ask, because when we were talking about like just getting dialed in, because Angel and I do plenty of that stuff. There's a festival in Maryland that's very, very 80s glam influence called M3.
Yeah, sure.
On the regular.
Yeah. Quiet Riot just played that.
Yep, you got it for sure. And it was one of those things too where it's like, yeah, we always try to do all the interviews that we can, and we had another good run of it this year. But sometimes it's like, yeah, it's not personal. It's just we can't really do it days of shows. So if the opportunities present itself, Angel and I have done our fair share at like the hotel rooms and stuff like that. But I always just find it interesting from different perspectives on guests and talent, on where their mindset is about like interviews when they know they're thinking about the stage.
Right.
So considering that Patriarchs in Black is kind of shaping up currently as like a festival type situation, when we're able to get that to happen, because I'm all about it, just for what it's worth as a fan, that I'm definitely pulling for all the cogs to work and all the dice to fall in the right places. But when you are on your downtime, you had mentioned that you were working for the tattoo distributor company and you're writing with DMC. Are those, is it obviously outside of, like, for lack of a better term, the day job, is writing music your other main thing when you're not on like the company time? Do you always find yourself with your guitar in your hand?
Playing basketball. I play a lot of basketball.
Okay.
This year a little bit less than I would like to, but yeah, I'm really passionate about playing basketball with my friends. I have the same crew for many years. Like, there's kids that they're like 33 years old, and I've been playing with them for like 15 years already. We have a really good crew. We only have a couple people my age that are still playing, but that is like a really big passion of mine. I don't play a ton of guitar. I just played along with the first Danzig record before this interview, and I'll play along with Kiss Alive on a regular basis. My wife is sick of hearing that, or Aerosmith rocks, But yeah, I don't play as much guitar as I should because I work a lot of hours for my job, and I do have outside interests.
Sure. Absolutely, totally. Are you a Brooklyn Nets fan?
A New York Knicks fan.
You're a Knicks guy. Okay, right on, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome for sure. Just because I growing up being a big Misfits fan, but also subsequently I'm also a huge Danzig fan, and I've gotten to meet Johnny Christ a few times over the years, and I actually met Johnny for the first time when he was with when he was playing in Vegas with Danzig for a festival called Psycho Fest.
Sure.
What are you personally like a Danzig guy? I mean, you were saying that you play along to the record, but do you find yourself, are you a Danzig fan?
First two albums are perfect. The third album is really, really good. Yeah, I love. I mean, I just did a thing for Goldmine magazine, my top 10 albums of all time, and somehow I left out Danzig Lucifuge. I thought I put it in there, but maybe I somehow gave them 11. But yeah, Danzig Lucifuge to me that's hard to beat, man. That's like a perfect record, and Her Black Wings. I mean, how do you beat that chorus, And then the first album, even though the guitar is no distortion on it, those songs are. I mean, like I said, I was playing along with it right before this interview started. Those songs held up really well.
They really did. When I saw them at Psycho Fest, Danzig was actually, besides playing the hits, of course, he was also playing. He was actually playing "How Gods Kill" in its entirety.
Yeah.
Which I love, because you're 100% right on Danzig and on Lucifuge. I mean, they're just holy shit.
Perfect records. Yeah.
I definitely have a soft spot for How the Gods Kill. There's something about Dirty Black Summer that I just think is really cool. It's just got that, again, it's funny and almost and very kind of cliche to use the word evil when you're talking about Danzig, but there's just something like fun, but just kind of like sludgy and evil about the design of that particular song that I really, really love. So
I love that song too. That's one of my favorite songs. Now I'm going to play it tomorrow in my car.
Yes, I am down for that, man. I am all about it. And then all of a sudden you start playing that song on like guitar and stuff like that, and your wife's like, "Oh no, another song you're playing 8 times in a row." Be like, "Yeah, that jerk on my interview put it into my brain." No, that's super duper cool. Have you gotten to meet Glenn at any point in your career?
No, it's funny. Our paths have never crossed, but this will make you laugh. If you ever want to go to YouTube and Dan Lorenzo, I have a song called Dan Zig Hates Christmas, because I wrote this riff for my first solo album that was really obviously, it sounded like a Danzig riff, and then I just became an homage. I made a video, and Steve Zing plays bass in the video actually. It's a homage to the Danzig Mother video, and it sounds like Danzig. It's called Dan Lorenzo, Dan Zig Hates Christmas. You got to check that out.
I'm absolutely going to check that out. It's super cool, because I've actually got one of Steve's Morning Noise vinyls signed by him on my wall. Nice. I've never gotten to meet him yet, but between him with what he does with Morning Noise and with what Glenn does, they're both very heavily involved with Cleopatra Records.
Right.
Cleopatra does a lot of stuff with Morning Noise and Danzig about making merch and records and stuff available that are signed, available, to the fans and stuff like that. So I got my hands on he did a copy of an alternate cover version, vinyl cover sleeve version of Devil's Child, Satan's Child. With like this like zombie girl just chilling there on a black background, and I was able to get a copy of that was signed. And it's funny because my a friend of mine, Veronica, who I was introduced to by a mutual friend we have in my friend Janet, was the girl in the devil horns on the back of Satan's Child. If you remember that photo shoot.
Nice.
That Veronica was the model that was used for that. So I was like, I had a regular copy of the record. I'm like, you know what? The next time I see Veronica, just whenever down the line, whenever, because she's a former wrestler that's gotten back into that scene. And so I was like, you know what? Megan and I love to go to wrestling. It was our first date. It's something we really love to do together. It's like, you know what? If we ever do something that Veronica's at, I'm like, I'm going to have to bring out that record and have her sign it and just have the two records like next to each other on my wall or something. It's like
awesome.
Interesting, like house decor and stuff. But no, that's definitely super cool for sure, man. I'm definitely going to have to check out that song, because it's already so up my alley, and I'm super down to check it out for sure.
Yeah, the video is fun. Check out the video.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. So, Metal Summoners, we do want to let you guys know that we love Dan and we respect his time. We're going to rock with him for a little bit longer, but we do want to be courteous of his evening, and it is going to be last call for alcohol. So any questions, any comments, anything that you want to ask Dan, don't be shy. You guys have been a little quiet tonight, so rock out with us, because we see a lot of you watching. But anything you want to ask, that's the nature of this show. So pump them into me and Angel, and we will get them to Dan. But Dan, one of the things I also want to continue on with when it comes to Patriarch, you're talking about currently writing music for a fourth record, with the new one being so fresh. Are you a catalog guy as far as like writing songs, kind of getting them cataloged and kind of having them ready to go? Or do they just kind of strike you at various times?
Yeah, I would say they strike me at various times. And, like I said, I'm always writing. So it's like, what am I writing for? I'm always recording, and then, just writing a lot. So I don't know if you would call it cataloging, but I always have a bunch of stuff ready to go.
Sure. Yeah. I just mean like like files or something like that, to be like, okay, I've got this song, this title, this idea, and this riff. Let me work on that, but I don't want to lose it, kind of a thing. So I always find it interesting if it's like, yeah, mood strikes me, or nah, man, I love to churn them out, or different kind of stuff when it comes to like a musician's like brain, as far as like how quickly they like to potentially turn out new music, as opposed to like, concentrating on like the current record, which I find of course it varies with like the different situations, of course, with something like yourself, where you need to look for the opportunities to play festivals and get your lineup together, because of the way Patriarchs kind of designed, as opposed to something, well, just using Johnny for example, like Quiet Riot or Danzig, that might have put out a new record but also be active on the road as a unit, to be able to rock out those tunes and get their fill before they start considering new music.
Yeah, no, I have like a million riffs upstairs in my loft that I have a recording unit that aren't full songs yet, and every now and then I'll listen to it to see if I need something to pull something.
Absolutely, for sure. How many guitars do you have, and do you still have your first one?
I don't have my first one anymore, but I have about 6 or 7.
Nice. What do you play? What's a little bit of your rig rundown?
Gibson Les Paul with DiMarzio pickups.
Okay.
And then whatever amplifier the engineer has. But I was supposed to call into my buddy's radio show in a little bit. Do you guys have anything else? Because I see it's 9:59.
Oh, no problem, Dan. Absolutely understandable. My apologies, Angel, if you discussed that while I had stepped away. So
no, we didn't
there. But no, absolutely, Dan. If you have a schedule, we are absolutely about honoring it, sir. So
right.
No, that is not a problem. Angel, are we in good shape, my friend?
Yep, we're in good shape. Like I said, we like to be respectful of everybody's time. So.
Absolutely. Please, Dan, real quick, where can Patriarchs in Black be found for socials?
The Instagram is Patriarchs in Black. The Facebook is Patriarchs in Black with no spaces, which made things a little confusing. And then my personal Instagram is Dan Lorenzo CK. But forget the social media thing. Just check out Patriarchs in Black Visioning, CD, vinyl, and digital, everywhere.
Absolutely, 100%. Dan, thank you so much, sir. Have a wonderful follow-up interview. We really appreciate your time. And don't be shy, but whether it's yourself or Nathan, to reach out to us. Anything that we can do to benefit Patriarchs in Black, Angel and I are here for you.
Thanks. Really appreciate both of you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Have a wonderful interview, and we'll see you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting Dan and everything that he's doing with Patriarchs in Black. Me in particular, I love Danzig. I love typeonegative. So having Johnny Kelly rocking out with him is very, very awesome for me. And thank you so much for everything that you do for me and Angel, supporting us, rocking out with us. And keep in mind that we got a lot of fun things going on. We've got side stuff that we do with Angel rocking out with Ballbuster, me also doing Vampire and Devil, and all that great stuff. Keep an eye out, LA, West Coast. You're going to be getting a little bit of a Metal Summit in your leading up to your Thanksgiving and stuff like that. But we definitely got a lot of stuff. I mean, Angel, that's going to be a cool one, man. We've got some cool things coming up with the Metal Summit, wouldn't you say?
No, I'm definitely looking forward. Like I said, I've never been to California, and growing up in the 80s, I don't care where you live, Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Whiskey Go-Go, you think about wanting to play there or do something there.
Yeah. So
the fact that we get to go on stage and introduce Kickin' Valentino.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, paying my respects to the Lemmy statue alone at the Rainbow is something I'm very much looking forward to doing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having lunch at the Rainbow.
Yeah, we can definitely make that a thing for sure. I mean, Megan's really stoked about that. I mean, that's definitely going to be a good one. So Metal Summoners, we are super stoked to see you guys all out and get to hang out with our West Coast Metal Summoners for Kickin' Valentina. I mean, dude, Angel, Kickin' Valentina, man. We know you. We love you. We know you love your KV. I love my KV, but also I think we're going to be able to bring over some friends because our good friends, Illusions of Grandeur, are LA people now too, and so
Yeah.
that definitely sets up for a great reunion. But Metal Summoners, we're going to let you guys enjoy your evening. Angel and I are going to rock out as well, and we're going to enjoy ourselves as well, put our feet up a little bit. But before we let you guys go, don't forget, follow the Metal Summit on Instagram, because that's where we do our announcements first and foremost. So that's where you see them. But make sure you guys are also following and subscribe to both our Facebook and our YouTube pages, because that's where you just saw Dan. That's where all of our interviews take place. We are really, really looking forward to seeing you guys in a week. We really appreciate you guys also rocking out with us the last couple of weeks. Angel and I have been laying it on very, very thick with interviews for you guys, and you always come correct. You always come to kill. But hey, this is me, Angel, and Steve's thing. This is what we love to do, and we love the opportunities that these various labels and artists have been affording us to get to do some off Wednesday episodes, but we definitely love it. But again, thank you so much, guys. Make sure that you're checking out Psycho Steve on his Instagrams, his Facebook, as well as his website. Angel at Angel Alamo 78 on Instagram, as well as Facebook. And you can also follow me at Salem.Vampire on Instagram. And for what it's worth, because we talked about TikTok, you can find me at Salem.Vampire on TikTok for the Metal Summit announcements. But we also have a The Metal Summit TikTok, so don't be shy. Hang out with us. Communicate with us. Let us know who you guys want to see on the show, because Angel and I love to bring on people that you guys will get excited about. And we do want to give some love and a shout out to the Mad Shad of the Mad Shad channel on YouTube. He put together our intro, so we very much appreciate him putting that together for us, so you can give a subscription to his page as well. But thank you guys so much. We love you, Metal Summoners. You guys have yourself a fantastic evening. Guest announcement over the weekend. We got a TMS alumni coming back to talk with us next week, and we're really looking forward to that. Take care. We love you guys. We'll see you guys in a week. Have a great weekend. Be good to each other. And again, this episode has been a tribute and a dedication to Jack Russell of Jack Russell's Great White, and of course, Great White. We lost him today. We love Jack Russell. Thank you so much for everything that he's given us, and our condolences and so much love to his friends, his family, and his colleagues and his fans. We will see you guys in a week. We love you. As always, you've been watching The Metal Summit.